Hi everybody, it is Saturday, April 25th, I believe. And I know, I haven't put a video up since Wednesday. I've been busy running around doing some stuff. For those of you, my friends, that hopefully see this tonight, it'll be up. If you're watching this, I put it up and got it up around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I put it on YouTube. First of all, let me say I'm glad to be with you again. I like to think that we're having a nice visit. Like we're back in room 323, sitting and right around like I do on the carpet, and you guys all around me, and I love to think of that. And you'll be there again soon for those that you will be back at the middle school next year. So I went to school for about 3 hours on Friday because teachers can go in for a little bit to get some work done. And what I did is very carefully I cleaned everybody's desks out. I put them in a big clear bag, and then I went out to your lockers, cleaned your lockers out, and put everything from there in the bag. And there's only a few of you that I'm not going to bring them to. One lives out of town, and one of you I have not hardly ever worked with. So the rest of you in the next week, I'm going to be emailing or calling and looking up your address and dropping all of your things off. Because I don't know if there's going to be a time before the end of the school year that we will be back in school together, unfortunately. What I did say to one of my 8th graders that's going to be a freshman next year is, you 8th graders, we're going to try and figure out a way to get you to the high school sometime in August, hopefully during summer school. We just pick a time, get together, and I'd take you there. And maybe Miss Trish, Miss Martin, Miss Witt, Miss Amy. We'll see. But one way or another, I'll take you there. The other thing is I want to have a party here at my house in August. Just kind of a, hey, we had a good school year, and say goodbye to our 8th graders who are going to be moving on to the high school. So, stay tuned for further details. But we better get to Mr. Smith's news story, which is a little bit of a long one, but that's okay. It's by an author called Wendy Ulmer, and it's called A Campfire for Cowboy Billy. Pictures are by Kenneth J. Spengler. Now this book came out from Rising Moon Company, and it came out in 1997, about 23 years ago. Clomp, jingle, clomp, jingle. Cowboy Billy walked down the hall, his empty boots and spurs accenting each step. Reaching high, he pushed the elevator button and waited. When the doors opened, Mr. Higgins, the elevator operator, smiled at Billy. "Howdy, Mr. Higgins," Billy grinned. "Where are you headed today, partner?" "To the canyon, please. I got some mail to deliver on 44th Street. "Looks like a Pony Express ride for you, Billy. Be careful." Does he live on a ranch? Or out west? Might be using his imagination, and when you can get adults to play along with you, it's amazing. A little bit of make-believe. Outside, Billy unhitched his faithful stick horse, Splinter. The late afternoon sun painted the canyon walls with shades of red, orange, and yellow. Cloud shadows danced with wind. Billy smiled, remembering Grandpa. Now, the canyons are the tall buildings. My guess he lives in a pretty big city with some high-rise buildings. Grandpa had been Billy's best friend. Grandpa told Billy stories about cowboys in the Old West. He sent Billy a hat, chaps, and a vest. He sent him boots and spurs and a turquoise Navajo ribbon shirt from Arizona. One night when Grandpa came to visit, they climbed the fire escape to the top of the apartment building and shared the stars. "Sure is a beautiful night," Grandpa said. "Indians have a legend. It says the stars are the campfire of those who've died and moved into the next world to dwell with the Great Spirit. Stars are the warm, twinkling campfires of special souls telling someone on earth how much they still love him. Do you believe that, Grandpa? Of course I do. Home for a cowboy is anywhere he lights his campfire. Everyone's got a heart full of memories like a night full of stars. And our memories of love shine the brightest. Now, one of those campfires belonged to Grandpa. So, just like Mr. Rogers always says, you know, things that you have been done for you, with you, in love, and what you do in love or for someone else is showing love. And it sounds like Billy's grandpa has died and is now one of those stars in the sky. Astride Splinter, Billy headed for the park at a trot. He rode off into the wind, one hand holding on tight to his big hat. Billy and Splinter dodged newspaper tumbleweeds blowing across the trail. A cougar darted across their path and disappeared down a small canyon. Dust swirled up in little cyclones, making Billy squint. You think it was a real cougar? Looks like it could be an alley cat to me. Rounding a corner, Billy saw a crowd of townspeople gathered by a small wagon train. A wheel had come off one of the wagons and the rest were stuck behind it. Men were shouting and yelling at the driver trying to change the wheel. The sheriff ran between the wagons and began guiding the others around the broken one. Weaving through the crowd of townspeople, Billy and Splinter slipped past the wagons. As they drew near the end of the wagon train, Billy heard a familiar whistle. It was old Enos, the chuck wagon cook and maker of great hot dogs, smiling and whistling a crazy tune. Billy waved and rode over to his wagon. "How are you, Billy boy?" Enos called. "Fine. I'm on a mail run to 44th Street. Are you taking the long way or risking the shortcut?" "We're taking the shortcut, but we're going to go real fast." "You should relax here a while, though. There's a wheel wagon ahead and you might have trouble getting through." "Well, partner, thanks for the tip." Old Enos grinned, handed Billy a hot dog with ketchup and mustard creeping over the bun, just the way Billy liked it. "You have a good day now and be careful." "Thanks, I will." Billy ate the last bite of the bun, jumped onto Splinter, and with the old Enos's whistle fading in the distance, he rode toward the trees. Slowing as they crossed the small arroyo, Billy and Splinter approached the park. This was the boundary of the Badlands. The roughest part of the mail run lay ahead. Packs of coyotes and a gang of bigger, faster bandit riders lurked in the shadows. Billy and Splinter started across the park at a gallop, winding around tall cactus, splashing through streams, and slipping down the shadowy trail. Arroyo, river, creek? Oh boy, I think so. Just as they entered Big Boulder Pass, Billy heard shouts. The big kid bandits were closing fast behind him. Urging Splinter on, Billy raced for the trees near the end of the trail. Suddenly he remembered Grandpa and his stories about the backtracking trick. "Hide behind a rock," Grandpa had explained, winking. "Let the bandits ride by and then head back the other way." Yep, there's always bully bandits somewhere around, it seems like, in some adventure story. Billy leaned over Splinter and they galloped on into the trees. He stopped behind a large rock wall. Billy and Splinter waited quietly, hardly breathing, and listened for the riders. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. They raced past, shouting and searching the trail ahead. Billy grinned as he rode back the way he had come. Looping around on another park trail, Billy arrived at the back of the post office. After emptying his mail pouch, Billy and Splinter headed for home, taking a trail that skirted the Badlands. So they didn't take the shortcut this time, I guess. Probably a good idea. It's getting dark, as Billy tied up Splinter and headed for the bunkhouse. Mr. Higgins met Billy at the front door. "Have a good ride, Billy?" Mr. Higgins asked as they took the elevator up. "Any trouble?" "Just some bandits. We gave them the slip, though." You're a good cowboy, Mr. Higgins said. All right, here's your floor. Would you take me to the top, please? There's someone I want to visit. Who do you think he wants to visit? Remember who visited him and showed him and told him the stories about the spirits living in the stars, the people we've lost, that we love, and that loved us? Cowboy Billy got off the elevator and walked to the end of the quiet corridor. He opened the door to the rooftop. Stepping out, he looked up and saw the crescent moon. The first campfires were just beginning to glow. Good night, Grandpa. Thanks for the trick. As Billy watched, the campfires grew brighter and brighter. And Grandpa, he whispered, I love you too. Alright, so here's a note from the author, and you guys know that I always, epilogue is kind of the end, and this is actually just says notes from the author. This book grew out, and the author, the man who wrote the story, actually it's Wendy, sorry, it's the girl who wrote the story, Wendy K. Ulmer, says this book grew out of a story I wrote to help my daughters, nieces, and nephews deal with my dad's death. First, I hope the stars as a connection between a departed loved one and child will help children become comfortable, comforted, and able to cope with such a loss. Second, I hope to reinforce the importance of imagination to both children and adults. You are never too old to have make-believe or imagination. Although we lived in the East, my father, he loved the West. He filled us with stories about the West and shared his excitement for its culture. He stretched our imaginations, and I hope A Campfire for Cowboy Billy will do the same for everyone who reads it. Well, that was pretty nice. It said Wendy, she grew up in Pennsylvania and lives in an old farmhouse now in near the coast of Maine. Maine, if this way would be north, all the way to the east. You go all the way to the ocean over there, and what ocean is that? Do you remember? Is it the Pacific or the Atlantic? It's the Atlantic. You go all the way there, and then you go north. Go through New York and Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont. All those ones on the coast there, Connecticut. Then you get to Maine. Maine's the last state on the northeast coast. She lives with her 2 daughters, Amanda and Molly, 2 cats and a dog. Wow. Now, the man who drew the pictures, he grew up in New York City and was raised in the suburbs of another big city, Philadelphia. I love it. It's a great book. Great, great, great book. Well, let's do one more story here, a poem or a lyric. And let me see. This is one that I've never heard him sing, but I kind of like the idea of it, and I'll show you it and tell you what the song title is of the poem. A Place of My Own. Especially now, when we're all kind of stuck in our house, not doing much, and sometimes lots of adults not being able to work. And depending on how big or small your place is, you might not feel like you have a place of your own. I like to have a place of my own, a place where I can be myself. When I want to think and play by myself, I like to have a place of my own. Like to have a place of my own, a step on a staircase, a drawer, or a chair, a corner, a spot anywhere, a place I can call my own. Dishes have places, so do pots and pans, beds and bathtubs, shoes and socks. Tables have places, so do faces and hands. Houses have places, keys have locks. I like to have a place of my own, a place where I can be myself. When I want to play and think by myself, I like to have a place of my own. Well, that was a nice one. Well, I will get this loaded tonight, so this is a Saturday video. Let's look at one more picture from our Life, Mr. Rogers. Let's see. Oh, this is one. We didn't watch that long ago, but it was filmed in the 1990s, so over 20 years ago, I think, like 99, 2000. But this is the man who set up the Legos and put it out. Can you see that? And he's setting them all up. Looks like he's setting them up, yeah. Maybe he did a practice run. Oh, okay, one more. This is from a long time ago, 45 years ago. Let's see. From Pittsburgh, candy maker Ed Mark showed Chef Brackett and Rogers how to use a taffy pulling machine in an episode from 1975. So taffy is kind of like Twizzlers, but sweeter. Look at that. Our good friend Chef Brackett there. All right. I know. I wish we could do make-believe. I wish we could do some other things with this, but there's just not enough time and not enough help. And so I hope you guys are getting a little bit of enjoyment on this. I hope those of you who don't know who I am Mr. Smith from the Monroe Middle School in Wisconsin. I teach students who have some disabilities. And I love it. Love my job. I work for some great adults. The Monroe Middle School, I've worked in all the schools in Monroe. I went to school in Monroe, Wisconsin. Graduated, and 2 years later I started back as a janitor at night, and now I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher. This is my 23rd year as a teacher, 22nd year. And it's my 32nd year as a Monroe employee. 32nd. Well, then I also went to school here for 13 years, counting kindergarten. So 32nd. I've been part of the school system for 45 years. Now, I'm not even 52 yet. So really, my first 5 years I didn't go to school. And then I had a couple years after high school that I did. And so, or I didn't go to school either. So really, out of my 52 years, only 7 of them I didn't spend time in our schools. So I hope you had a good time. I think if we get some nice weather, sometime later this week, I wanted to do it last week, we're going to go for a little tour around my house. Maybe look at the barn, look out back, maybe meet some of my outside cats, just go for a walk. With a story, of course. All right. You've made this day a special day. You know how? By just your being you. There's only one person in the whole world like all of you, and you guys know who I'm talking about. And friends I haven't met either. And maybe some new kids that are going to be coming up to the middle school next year. You made this day a special day by just your being yourself, and people can like you just the way you are. All right, hope you've had a good Saturday night, and hopefully tomorrow, Sunday, I'll put another video out. Take care. Bye.